For anyone with their ears pierced and who likes to work with their hands, polymer clay earrings are fun, fast, and easy to make. They make really great gifts too. These are the styles of earrings I'm going to show you how to make. The first one is just a simple rectangle shape that gives a focus on the texture of the leaf. The second one is two pieces dangling together that lets the texture of the leaf be highlighted, but also with the pop of color on the top piece. The third style is made of 3 elements, the bottom of which you can add a leaf texture. For this project, here's what you'll need. Premo Sculpey clay in white, cadmium yellow, cadmium red, fuchsia, turquoise, and cobalt blue. Circles of varying sizes, a roughly 3 by 4.5 centimeter oval shape, a 2 by 4 centimeter rectangle, jump rings, ear wire hooks, an acrylic rolling pin or smooth bottle to roll with, a pair of needle nose pliers, 2 if you have it, an X-Acto knife, a straight edge to cut with, a small round circle or a toothpick to cut the holes for the jump rings on the earrings, a smooth surface to roll on, a baking tray, parchment paper, and aluminum foil, and a variety of leaves. You'll want to pick leaves that are about the same size as the earrings we're going to use. I know that was a lot, hang with me. I'll have all of the materials and supplies listed in the description below, as well as where I got them from. I'll also give you a cheat sheet for mixing the clay colors, and a guide sheet for cutting out the rectangle and oval shapes. I'm going to start out by prepping my work surface, making sure it's clean and hair-free, but I live with 3 cats and 2 dogs, so that might be a little hard. I'm also going to make sure that my hands are nice and clean. Before you actually start making the earrings, you'll need to condition the polymer clay. This is the process of kneading the clay to make it softer and easier to work with. You can condition the clay by rolling it and kneading it with your hands. You'll know the clay is nice and conditioned when you can easily bend it without cracks or roll it out without rough edges. When you're kneading and folding, try not to trap air bubbles. If they do appear, you can pop them with your X-Acto knife. Style 1. A simple rectangle with a leaf impression. For this design, you'll need to make a sandstone color. This recipe needs 4 parts of cadmium yellow, 2 parts of white, 2 parts of fuchsia, and 1 part of turquoise. Once you have your colors mixed up, I recommend rolling the clay onto a smooth surface first, and then moving it onto some parchment paper. Otherwise, trying to remove the cutout shapes from that smooth surface is pretty difficult because the clay tends to stick on it. I like to roll out the clay to a thickness of about 3 millimeters or 1/8 of an inch. Once it's nice and flat, I'm going to move it to a sheet of parchment paper. To make the leaf impression, I know that I want to leave room at the top for that jump ring hole and have the leaf texture be somewhere in the middle at the bottom, sort of bleeding off the edge. I'm going to take my leaf and leave myself a little handle using the stem where I can easily grab it. Using the roller, I'm going to gently go over the top of the leaf on the clay. I don't want to apply too much pressure because that would crush the leaf into the clay. Now I'm going to carefully peel it off. Polymer clay is firm enough, so the texture should hold pretty well. Now I can frame around the leaf with my paper guide and carefully cut it out with a straight edge. I'm going to transfer these to a prepared baking sheet lined with some parchment paper. Now I'm going to make those tiny holes for the jump rings. I'm also going to cover the clay with a little tent made out of aluminum foil to avoid any lint or fuzz falling on them while I'm working on the other styles. Style 2. A circle and oval with a leaf impression. Level 2, let's do it! You're going to need to mix up 2 colors for this design, green moss and beige. Make sure you mix up enough beige for another set of circles because the last design calls for beige too. To make green moss, mix 8 parts of cadmium yellow, 2.5 parts of fuchsia, 2 parts of cobalt, and 1 part of white. For beige, mix 48 parts of white, 1 part of cadmium yellow, 1/2 part of turquoise, and 1/4 part of fuchsia. Just like the last style, I'm going to roll out the clay onto a smooth surface to about 3 millimeters or 1/8 of an inch thick, and then transfer it to some parchment paper. I'm going to use a circle that's about 1.6 centimeters in diameter to cut out the pieces for the top circle from the green moss color, setting them aside for now. Now for the ovals. To make the leaf impression, I'm going to pick a slightly larger leaf and put it just around where the bottom of the oval is going to be. Taking the roller, I'm going to roll these gently out. Again, I don't want to completely crush the leaf into the clay. Now, I'm going to carefully peel off the leaf and cut out the oval shape with an X-Acto knife, using the paper oval as a guide. Along with the first style, I'm going to transfer these onto the prepared baking sheet. Before you bake them, it's a lot easier to remove any bits that aren't smooth with your fingers. I also like to smooth out the edges of the pieces too. Now I'm going to make those tiny holes for the jump rings. Style 3. Hanging circles with a leaf impression. So hopefully you are a little more comfortable with the process now. You're going to need to mix up 3 colors for this design: red brick, aspen gold, and beige. To make red brick, mix 3 parts of cadmium red, 1 part of cadmium yellow, 1/2 part of cobalt, and 1/2 part of white. For Aspen Gold, mix 16 parts of cadmium yellow, 1 part of white, 1/2 part of turquoise, and 1/4 part of cadmium red. Hopefully you should have enough beige left over from the previous style, but just in case, for beige, mix 48 parts of white, 1 part of cadmium yellow, 1/2 part of turquoise, and 1/4 part of fuchsia. Just like the last style, I'm going to roll out the clay on a smooth surface to about 3 mm or 1/8 of an inch thick, and then transfer it to some parchment paper. I'm also going to use that same 1.6 cm circle to cut out the first piece for this style. For Aspen Gold, I'm going to use a slightly larger circle cutter that's about 2.7 cm in diameter. Then using a straight edge or the X-Acto knife, I'm going to cut that circle in half. With those shapes cut out, I'm going to roll out my clay and use 2 leaves roughly about the same size and gently press them into the clay. Make sure that you leave enough space between the 2 leaves for 2 2.7 cm circles to fit. Once those are all cut out, I'm going to move these onto the baking sheet and smooth them out just a bit. As always, the last step is to make the tiny holes for the jump rings. Time to bake. You can bake polymer clay in your regular oven at home. Never bake polymer clay in a microwave. Before you bake, it's easier to do a final once over your earrings to remove any little mistakes. Double check your pieces for any fingerprints and bits of lint or fuzz. Follow the instructions on the clay package for baking time and temperature. The clay I'm using, Premo Sculpey, will bake at 275 degrees Fahrenheit. Once the oven is preheated, I left the tent of aluminum foil on to protect the earring pieces from browning or discoloration. Your baking time will depend on how thick the clay is. Bake for 30 minutes for each 1/4 inch of thickness. Although for most earring pieces, 30 minutes is enough. When your pieces come out of the oven, they should be able to bend a little bit without breaking. Polymer clay is a really great medium because any textures you press into the clay before baking will stay. Time to assemble. I'm going to walk you through the 3rd style first because it covers a lot of what you'll need to know. For this style, you'll need 6 large jump rings, 2 smaller jump rings, and 2 ear wire hooks. You can either use 1 set of the needle nose pliers to open the jump ring cable, but I like to use 2 because it can save your thumbnail from possibly breaking. I'm going to open the jump ring wide enough for the clay piece to fit through. Making sure that the next piece is facing the right direction, I'm going to put it on the same jump ring and close it with those needle nose pliers. You can always open up the jump ring again and flip around the earring piece if you accidentally put it on backwards. I'm going to take another open jump ring and repeat the same process I just did, making sure everything is facing the right way. For the last hole, I'm going to open a 3rd jump ring and thread it through, but I won't close it yet. I'm going to take a smaller jump ring and thread it on. To add the ear wire hook, I'm going to close the larger jump ring first and then use a couple pliers to open the small jump ring. This might require a little finessing. Again, you want to make sure that everything is facing the right way before you attach the ear wire hook. The last step is to close up the small jump ring. Time to tackle the other styles. Opening the first few jump rings is a little frustrating, but you'll get the hang of it with some practice. Here's all 3 styles side by side. Which one is your favorite? Leave your comment down below. I hope your first dive into polymer clay is a lot of fun.
Oh dear chap, I hope you have a glorious time making these.